about you, I want you to let that sit for a moment. Because I feel like a lot of you already felt something change, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet way, the kind of shift that moves through the body before the mind catches up, and you felt it. You just did not know what to call it yet. The cards today are going to give it a name. The first card that comes out is the Wheel of Fortune, and this is such a specific card to open with for this message. The Wheel of Fortune is not a card about luck, it is a card about turning points, about the moment when the rotation of a situation changes direction completely, when something that was moving one way suddenly begins moving another. And I feel like that is exactly what happened last night. Something turned, not gradually, not slowly, not over time, all at once, like a wheel that has been spinning in one direction for too long, finally catching on something and reversing. And at the center of that reversal was a realization about you, about your value, about what they stand to lose, about what they have been treating carelessly that deserves far more care than they have been giving it. The second card is the King of Cups reversed, and this is the person right now. The King of Cups reversed is someone who has been emotionally unavailable, not because they do not feel things, they feel a great deal, but because they have been suppressing what they feel, managing it, keeping it contained, operating from a place of control rather than honesty. I feel like this person has been running their emotions through a filter, deciding what to show, what to hide, what to acknowledge, and what to push down. And last night, that filter broke. Something bypassed every layer of control they had, and what came through was raw, unmanaged, completely honest, and what came through was about you. The third card is the Nine of Cups reversed, and this one tells me exactly what kind of mistake was made. The Nine of Cups reversed is the card of realizing that what you thought was enough was not. Of sitting in a situation you constructed, looking around at it, and feeling the hollowness of it. I feel like this person built a comfortable distance from you, a way of keeping things manageable, a way of having you in their life without fully committing to what that means. And last night they sat inside that construction and felt how empty it was, how much was missing, how much of what they actually wanted they had been keeping at arm's length, and that realization was not comfortable. It was not supposed to be. It was the kind that changes what comes next. I feel like you are at the edge of something shifting in a very real way, not just emotionally in terms of actual movement, actual action. This person is not sitting quietly with what they realized last night. Something in them is already beginning to move. And the cards are going to show us exactly where that movement leads. And I want to say something to the ones who have been holding their breath around this person, the ones who have been giving and showing up and waiting, wondering if any of it was being noticed, wondering if any of it actually mattered to them. Last night gave you your answer. It mattered more than they had been letting on. More than even they fully understood until something cracked the pretense open when you started to question whether what you felt was real or just your own hoping. Let the cards answer that question today, because the answer is very clear. Last night, this person finally caught up to what you have known. They felt the full truth of this in a way they simply could not dismiss. And now they are sitting with the question of what they are going to do about it. That question is about to have an answer. So let's keep going. Now let's go deeper into what this person was actually carrying last night, because the realization they had was not a simple one. The cards are pulling up something that has been buried for a while, and it is more significant than they have been letting on. The first card here is the Four of Pentacles, and this is such a telling card for this part of the reading. The Four of Pentacles is the card of someone gripping something too tightly, arms wrapped around what they have, terrified of losing it, but in doing so, unable to give anything freely, unable to open their hands and actually offer something real. I feel like this person has been holding on to a version of this situation that kept them comfortable, a version where they did not have to fully show up, where they could keep you close enough to feel the warmth without making themselves truly vulnerable, where they maintained control while you remained uncertain. And last night, they sat with the reality of what that has actually cost, not just you. themselves because holding everything that tightly is an exhausting way to live. And it keeps the very thing you want from ever fully arriving. The second card is Temperance reversed. And Temperance reversed is a loss of balance, of someone who has been operating in extremes, hot and cold, present and absent, certain one moment and completely withdrawn the next. I feel like this person knows they have been inconsistent with you, knows that the way they have been showing up has been anything but steady. And I feel like last night they finally let themselves sit with the impact of that, not the impact on them. The impact on you, I feel like they thought about what it has actually felt like to be on your side of this. The confusion, the second guessing, the exhaustion of never quite knowing where you stood. And that thought did not sit well. The third card is the Six of Pentacles reversed, and this is the card of an imbalance in giving, of a dynamic where one person has been extending far more than the other. I feel like this person realized last night how much you have been giving, how much you have been showing up, staying steady, extending patience, how much you have been carrying the emotional weight of this connection almost entirely on your own, and they realize that they have not been matching that, not even close. That recognition landed in them differently last night than it ever has before, not as an abstract awareness, as something that actually stung. The fourth card is the Three of Swords reversed. And the Three of Swords reversed is grief beginning to lift, is pain that has been acknowledged finally starting to move through. I feel like this person has been carrying something old into this connection. Old disappointment, old abandonment, old proof that opening up leads to getting hurt. And that old wound has been sitting between you the entire time. Last night, something made them look at it directly, not past it, not around it, directly at it. And in looking at it clearly, they began to understand how much of their behavior here has been about protecting an old scar rather than responding to who you actually are. You are not the person who hurt them before. And last night, they finally felt that distinction. The fifth card is the Eight of Wands reversed, and this tells me something about where this person has been stuck. The Eight of Wands reversed is blocked momentum, energy that wants to move, that is ready to move, that has been trying to move, but keeps stopping itself at the last moment. I feel like this person has almost reached out to you multiple times, has almost said the thing they needed to say, has almost taken the step that would have moved this forward, and then retreated every single time. But last night, something shifted in that pattern, something broke the cycle, and the energy that has been blocked for so long is finally beginning to move. I want to say something to the ones who have been wondering if they caused any of this. You did not cause this. What has been happening has been about this person's own unresolved relationship with closeness, their own fear of what happens when something matters too much. And last night, they saw that pattern clearly as self-sabotage, plain and simple. And that realization is going to change how they move from here. Something in this person woke up last night, something that has been dormant for too long. And what wakes up cannot go back to sleep. So stay with me. Now let's talk about you, because this reading is not only about what cracked open inside them last night. It is about what you have been carrying through every moment of this situation. And the cards have a great deal to say about where you actually stand. The first card for your side is the Queen of Wands, and I love this card showing up here for you. The Queen of Wands is not a passive energy. She is magnetic, warm, self-possessed, and deeply alive. She knows what she brings to the table, not in an arrogant way, in a grounded, settled, "This is who I am and I am not apologizing for it" kind of way. I feel like this card is showing me the version of you that exists underneath all the uncertainty of this situation. The version that has not been fully expressed because you have been managing yourself around this person, softening your edges, reading the room, adjusting yourself to fit whatever space they were willing to offer. And the Queen of Wands is saying, enough of that. That version of you, the full unedited version, is exactly what this person needs to be confronted with. Because it is the version of you they realized they were losing last night. The second card is the Eight of Wands, and the Eight of Wands is fast-moving energy. It is the card of things accelerating, of communication that has been delayed, suddenly finding its channel, of movement that was stuck, breaking loose, and rushing forward. I feel like this card is speaking directly to what is coming for you, not eventually soon. I feel like something is going to reach you from this person in a way that catches you slightly off guard, not because you were not expecting movement, but because of the speed of it, because of how different it feels from the pace this connection has been moving at. There is an urgency building on their end, and that urgency is going to make itself known. The third card is the Ten of Wands reversed, and this one is specifically about you and what you have been carrying. The Ten of Wands reversed is the card of finally setting something down, of releasing a burden you have been lugging around for far too long. I feel like you have been holding this entire connection up largely on your own, doing the emotional labor, holding the hope, sustaining the patience, while also managing your own doubts, your own hurt, your own need for reassurance that never quite came. That is an enormous amount to carry. And the Ten of Wands reversed is telling me you are reaching the point where you are ready to put it down, not because you are giving up, because you are finally ready to only hold what is genuinely being offered to you. The fourth card is the Five of Cups, and I want to read this card carefully for you, because the Five of Cups is often read as grief or loss. But what I see here is something more specific. I feel like you have been mourning a version of this connection that existed in potential, a version of this person that you sensed was in there, but that rarely showed up fully. And there has been a quiet grief in that gap between who they have been and who you could feel them capable of being. But I also feel like that grief is beginning to shift, because last night, the version of them you always sensed was in there started to emerge. And I want you to notice that, not to reward it immediately, but to notice that what you believed about this person was not wrong. You were not idealizing someone who did not exist. You were seeing someone who was not yet ready to be seen. Until last night, I also feel like there is a version of you that has been waiting for permission to want what you want without apology. Permission to expect what you deserve without feeling like you are asking for too much. And I want to be very clear with you. You do not need permission. What you have been asking for in this connection is not too much. It is the bare minimum of what real love looks like. And the person on the other side of this reading knows that now they sat with what they have been withholding last night. And they understood what it actually costs someone to keep receiving half of what they deserve. So let that land, and let's go right into what actually blocked this. Now let's talk about what made this so complicated, because I feel like a part of you has always sensed that this was not as simple as it appeared on the surface, that there was something underneath the distance, underneath the inconsistency, something that was driving this person's behavior that had nothing to do with you, and the cards are going to name it. The first card here is the Three of Pentacles reversed, and the Three of Pentacles reversed is a breakdown in collaboration, in two people being willing to build something together. I feel like this person has had a fundamental difficulty with the concept of partnership, not in a surface level way, at a foundational level. The idea of genuinely merging their life, their emotional world, their daily rhythm with someone else's has triggered something very deep and very uncomfortable in them. I feel like somewhere along the way they learned that depending on someone meant being let down, that closeness meant exposure, that building something with another person was just creating something beautiful to eventually watch fall apart. And so they have been protecting themselves from that outcome by never quite fully investing, by keeping one foot always slightly outside the door. And that pattern, that deep protective pattern, is what has been creating the distance between you. The second card is the Seven of Wands. And the Seven of Wands is someone on the defensive, standing on higher ground, holding their position, fending off everything that comes close. I feel like this person operates from a defensive posture in relationships, even when nothing is actually threatening them, even when what is approaching is warm and genuine and safe. The defense goes up automatically. I feel like they have been defensive with you, even in moments when you were not challenging them at all, where you were simply being present, simply being yourself. And the walls still went up, because the walls are not a response to you. They are a response to a fear that predates you entirely. The third card is the Four of Swords, and the Four of Swords is the card of withdrawal, of someone who retreats into themselves when things become too emotionally demanding, who goes quiet not of cruelty, but out of an inability to process intensity in real time. I feel like this person needs silence the way some people need air. When something feels like too much, they go inside themselves. They close the doors, they go still, they wait for the feeling to pass. And from the outside, that looks like disappearance. It looks like not caring. It looks like choosing distance over connection. But from the inside, it is just someone overwhelmed, doing the only thing they know how to do. The fourth card is the King of Swords reversed. And this is the card of someone using logic to avoid feeling, of someone who is intellectually very capable but emotionally very defended, who can analyze a situation from every angle but struggles to simply sit inside how they feel about it. I feel like this person has been rationalizing their way through this connection, telling themselves stories about why now is not the right time, why things are too complicated, why it would be better to wait. All of it designed to keep the emotional reality of what they feel at a comfortable intellectual distance. Until last night, when the emotional reality refused to stay behind the glass. And I want to say this clearly: none of this was a reflection of your value, your desirability, or whether you were worth choosing. You were always worth choosing. The blocks were always internal, old architecture built long before you ever arrived, and last night, that architecture began to crack. I also want to name something that I feel has been at the heart of this whole situation. I feel like this person has never doubted that you are someone worth being with. That has never been the question. The question has always been whether they are capable of being what someone like you deserves. And the answer they arrived at last night was no, not the way I have been showing up. Not in a defeated way. A deep resolve to do something genuinely different from here. That is the shift. Not just regret, but the beginning of real change. So let's go into what that change actually looks like. All right, let's talk about what changes now. Because the energy in these cards is completely different from everything we have looked at so far, something has lifted, something is moving, and it is moving in a very specific direction. The first card here is the Chariot, and the Chariot is one of the most decisive cards in the entire deck. This is not the energy of someone weighing their options or taking their time, or holding back to see what happens. The Chariot is someone who has made a decision, locked in their direction, and is now moving forward with complete intention. I feel like this card is speaking directly to where this person is internally right now. After last night, the internal debate is over. The part of them that was hesitating, the part that was retreating, the part that kept choosing the comfortable distance has been overridden by something stronger, by clarity, by the kind of certainty that only comes when you have been cracked open enough to stop lying to yourself. And they are moving, not slowly, with direction. The second card is the Six of Cups. And the Six of Cups is the card of returning, of coming back to something that held meaning, of a person who allowed distance to grow, reaching back toward what they actually care about. I feel like this card is specifically about this person reaching back toward you. Not in a nostalgic, let us pretend nothing happened kind of way, in a real way. In a way that acknowledges the gap, acknowledges the mistake, and chooses to move towards something better. I feel like what is coming from this person is not going to feel like a continuation of what was before. It is going to feel like a new approach, a different energy, more deliberate, more honest, more willing to actually be present. The third card is the King of Pentacles. And the King of Pentacles is someone who builds, who is reliable, grounded, consistent, and present, who does not make promises they cannot keep. I feel like this card is showing me what this person is aspiring to become in this connection. Not who they have been, who they are now orienting themselves toward being. Someone who shows up, someone who is steady, someone who does not make you wonder where you stand. I feel like the version of this person coming towards you is more grounded than the version you have been dealing with. More willing to be accountable, more willing to do the actual work of showing up consistently. The fourth card is the Page of Pentacles. And the Page of Pentacles is the card of someone making a genuine new start, of someone approaching something with fresh eyes and real commitment. Not the energy of someone repeating old patterns, the energy of someone who has learned something and is beginning to apply it. I feel like this person is in a genuinely new place internally. Something has shifted at a foundational level, and the way they approach this connection going forward is going to reflect that. The fifth card is the Two of Pentacles, and this card speaks to adjustment. So someone actively working to rebalance something, to find a new rhythm, a new way of operating, a new equilibrium. I feel like this person is actively working out how to show up differently, not just wanting to actively working it out. And I feel like that recalibration is going to become visible to you soon. Not in words alone, in behavior, in consistency, in the feeling of someone finally being present when they had always been slightly somewhere else before. And I want to say something to the ones who are wondering if this is real. If last night actually changed something, or if things will slide back into the same old patterns. People genuinely change when the discomfort of staying the same finally exceeds the discomfort of actually changing. And I feel like that threshold was crossed last night. What they sat with last night was not surface level. It went to the root of something. And when something is uprooted that deeply, it does not simply grow back the same way. So when it comes, allow what is coming to be received. Not with a suspicion, not with a wall, not with let me see if you mean it. With the kind of open, grounded presence that the Queen of Wands energy we saw on your side of this reading actually holds, because that is exactly who you are. And that is exactly who they are finally ready to meet. And now let's land this, because after everything the cards have shown today, I want to leave you with something you can actually use. Something grounded, something clear, something that gives you a place to stand going forward. The first card for guidance is Justice. And Justice is one of the most precise cards in the deck. It does not deal in feelings alone. It deals in truth, in what is actually fair, what is actually real, what is actually deserved. And justice, sitting here in your closing position, is telling you something very specific. What is coming is a correction, not a dramatic one, not a grand gesture or a sweeping declaration. A correction, a rebalancing of something that has been sitting out of alignment for too long. I feel like this card is speaking to the dynamic between you and this person. The way the weight has been distributed unevenly, the way one person has been doing far more than their share of the emotional work. Justice is saying that imbalance is going to shift, not because you demanded it, because they finally saw it clearly and they cannot unsee it. The second card is the Sunday. And the Sunday is not a complicated card. It is one of the most straightforwardly positive cards in the entire deck. It is the card of clarity, of warmth, of things finally being visible in full light, of the fog clearing, of the confusion dissolving, of two people finally being able to see each other without all the static in between. I feel like this card is pointing at where this connection is headed, towards something warmer, towards something that does not require constant interpretation, towards something that actually feels good to be inside of, rather than something you have to constantly manage and decode. That is what is on the other side of what happened last night. Something that finally breathes. The third card is the Nine of Pentacles. And the Nine of Pentacles is the card of someone who has built something solid within themselves, who is complete, who does not need what is coming in order to be whole, but who is genuinely ready to share that wholeness with something real. I feel like this card is speaking directly to you, to the version of you that exists right now, after everything you have navigated, after all the patience and the holding on and the quiet strength. You are not diminished by this experience. You are more solid because of it, more grounded, more clear on what you actually want and what you will not settle for. And that version of you is exactly the version that is capable of receiving what is coming. So here's what I want to leave you with. Do not pre-forgive everything before anything has actually changed. Let the action speak. Let the consistency show itself. Let this person demonstrate through behavior, not just words, that last night's realization actually took root. You do not owe anyone access to you simply because they finally woke up to your value. What you owe yourself is the patience to see if this is real, and the self respect to only accept what actually matches what you deserve. I feel like this person is genuinely different after last night. I feel like something real shifted, but let it prove itself. Let it show up. Let it be consistent over time. And hold your ground through all of it. The version of you that has been showing up through all of this complicated, uncertain, in between time is your greatest asset right now. Do not abandon yourself in the rush to meet someone halfway. Stay centered, stay grounded, and trust that what is real will find its way to you. And I want to close with something that goes a little deeper than advice. I feel like this reading found you at a very specific kind of moment, a moment where something in you needed to be confirmed. Not just about this person and what they realized about you, about whether the faith you have been quietly keeping meant anything. And I want to answer that directly. It meant everything. The way you have carried yourself through this situation, the patience, the groundedness, the refusal to become someone smaller, that is the foundation of something real. And what is coming toward you is going to land on that foundation. So receive it well, receive it from the version of yourself that knows your worth, not the version that is just relieved something is finally changing. The version that knows what they deserve and is no longer willing to accept anything less. That is who this reading is for, and that is who is about to finally be met. I want to leave you with something you can actually use. Something grounded, something clear, something that gives you a place to stand going forward. The first card for guidance is Justice, and Justice is one of the most precise cards in the deck. It does not deal in feelings alone. It deals in truth. In what is actually fair, what is actually real, what is actually deserved, and justice sitting here in your closing position is telling you something very specific. What is coming is a correction, not a dramatic one, not a grand gesture or a sweeping declaration. A correction, a rebalancing of something that has been sitting out of alignment for too long. I feel like this card is speaking to the dynamic between you and this person, the way the weight has been distributed unevenly, the way one person has been doing far more than their share of the emotional work. Justice is saying that imbalance is going to shift, not because you demanded it, because they finally saw it clearly and they cannot unsee it. The second card is the Sunday. And the Sunday is not a complicated card. It is one of the most straightforwardly positive cards in the entire deck. It is the card of clarity, of warmth, of things finally being visible in full light, of the fog clearing, of the confusion dissolving, of two people finally being able to see each other without all the static in between. I feel like this card is pointing at where this connection is headed, toward something warmer, toward something that does not require constant interpretation, toward something that actually feels good to be inside of, rather than something you have to constantly manage and decode. That is what is on the other side of what happened last night. Something that finally breathes. The third card is the Nine of Pentacles. And the Nine of Pentacles is the card of someone who has built something solid within themselves. Who is complete? Who does not need what is coming in order to be whole, but who is genuinely ready to share that wholeness with something real? I feel like this card is speaking directly to you, to the version of you that exists right now, after everything you have navigated, after all the patience and the holding on and the quiet strength. You are not diminished by this experience. You are more solid because of it, more grounded, more clear on what you actually want and what you will not settle for. And that version of you is exactly the version that is capable of receiving what is coming. So here's what I want to leave you with. Do not pre-forgive everything before anything has actually changed. Let the action speak. Let the consistency show itself. Let this person demonstrate through behavior, not just words, that last night's realization actually took root. You do not owe anyone access to you simply because they finally woke up to your value. What you owe yourself is the patience